It started with a simple Reddit question, one that seemed too open, too raw. What is the most messed up thing you have ever done? It was posted on r Ask Reddit on May 8, 2025, and like most threads of its kind, the top comments were jokey, unserious, or tame confessions about past relationships and dumb pranks. But then a single reply changed everything. I ran over a woman and her child in California in '96. I don't remember the specific city, but I'll never forget it was the intersection between Vanawin Street and Louis Avenue. I think the mom died, but I don't remember what happened to the kid. I got away, scot-free. He claimed to be confessing now only because the statute of limitations had expired. Most people thought it was just another made-up story for Reddit clout until another user dug deeper. They found a Los Angeles Times article from July 1996 that perfectly matched the story. Not just in general details, but the exact intersection the man had mentioned. The victim was 19-year-old Ruby Moreno, and her daughter had just turned 1. That day, Ruby had taken her baby to the hospital for minor cuts. She was heading home around 10 p.m. and stopped by a relative's house near Vanawin Street. As she tried getting into her car, a sound tore through the night. Tires screamed across the pavement. A car, doing nearly 100 miles per hour, was flying straight toward her. Witnesses said the vehicle had swerved to avoid a van just seconds earlier. Ruby clutched her daughter and tried to run but didn't make it. She tripped in the street and the car struck her moments later. Her body hit one car, then launched onto the roof of another. The child flew from her arms and hit the asphalt. Miraculously, the baby survived without lasting injuries. But Ruby wasn't as lucky. She died later that night in the hospital. The driver? Witnesses said he tried to flee. He crashed into another car, hit a curb, then vanished. He was never caught. And now, decades later, this Reddit comment may have revealed the truth. The man behind that deadly hit-and-run was hiding in plain sight, behind a screen. When asked about the driver's state at the time, the original LA Times article had speculated he was intoxicated. Inebriated, sure, more high than drunk. I was on a lot of junk back there. But perhaps most disturbing wasn't the act itself, but his cold, distant attitude. It's been 30 years. That child probably has children of its own. I seem stone cold because I've already been through all the stages. I justified myself. I rotted with guilt. I had sleepless nights. I'm an old man now. I'm waiting to die any moment. He claimed there was no way to hold him accountable anymore. There's nothing tying me back to that day but my word, he said. Was he even telling the truth? Parts of his story matched the article exactly. The street names, the circumstances, even the detail about discovering blood on his car the next day. But other details didn't line up. The 1996 reports mention a passenger fleeing on foot. The Reddit user said nothing about that. In fact, he said he still had the car, and that's how he remembered. It's possible he fabricated everything, read the article, copied the facts, then made up the rest when users asked questions. But it's also possible he was finally coming clean. California authorities were notified. But with no new evidence and nothing but a Reddit post as proof, the truth may be lost to time. In 2012, a Reddit post went viral with a chilling prompt. What's a secret that would ruin your life if it ever got out? Tens of thousands of replies poured in. Some were funny, some were mundane. But one reply posted 9 hours after the original felt different. It was quiet, and it was devastating. I accidentally killed 7 people. It wasn't a murder. It wasn't an act of rage. It was a mistake, a forgotten rag in the wrong place at the worst possible time. The Reddit user explained he had been installing a new water heater in a rental unit. To keep debris out of the exhaust, he had stuffed a rag into the opening during transport. But after installing it in the property, he never took it out. A week later, he got a call. Something had happened at the rental. Police and emergency workers were already on the scene. He went to shut off the gas and noticed something sticking out from the top of the water heater. He pulled it out, turned the gas off, and walked upstairs only to learn that every tenant in the building had died. I drink all day now, he wrote. It's killing me from the inside. But if I say anything, my family's ruined. We have a bunch of rental properties. We'd be shut down. The account vanished just as quickly as it appeared. It was a throwaway. No replies, no edits, No more details. But Reddit wasn't done. If the user wouldn't give answers, others would go find them. And they did. Someone eventually discovered a news report about a carbon monoxide poisoning that occurred on December 16, 2006, in Kirksville, Missouri. 7 people had died in their sleep, 5 adults and 2 children. It sounded exactly like the confession. But here's the twist. According to police at the time, the heating system wasn't to blame. The cause, they said, was a van running overnight in a closed garage. So, did this man really cause the deaths of 7 people, or was it a coincidence? Maybe the Reddit user wasn't lying. Maybe he truly believed he caused the accident. Maybe he saw the rag, panicked, and made the wrong assumption. Or he made the whole thing up. Maybe he read about the real event online, copied the details, and made himself the villain for attention. It wouldn't be the first time someone had done that on Reddit. There's even the theory that he wasn't the landlord at all, just someone with access to the article. But the most haunting possibility is this. He was telling the truth. The van and the rag could have both contributed to the deaths. But the truth? We may never know. In May of 2017, a post surfaced on the r/Canada News subreddit with a title that chilled readers to the bone. Wanted for Kitchener murder, my side. It wasn't clickbait. It wasn't a hoax. The post was written by the prime suspect himself, Ager Houston, a 21-year-old on the run, accused of a brutal murder in Kitchener, Ontario. And now, from some undisclosed location, he had taken to Reddit to tell his version of what happened. But to understand this confession, you have to go back 15 months earlier, when Ager met Melinda Vasiliev. Both were 21, both lived in Kitchener, and both, by every outsider's account, fell hard and fast for each other. They dated for over a year, but things eventually turned sour, arguments turned frequent. Tension grew. By April 2017, they broke up over text. That's when the nightmare began. Ager tried to break into Melinda's apartment through the patio. He was spotted by her friend and her friend's boyfriend. Police were called. Despite everything, he continued texting Melinda, begging to meet just one last time. She eventually said yes, hoping they could part ways peacefully. They arranged to meet on April 27th. Melinda asked her sister and a friend to stay with her while Ager visited. But when he didn't show, the girls left. They were gone for barely 30 minutes. When they returned, everything had changed. The apartment was wrecked. Melinda was lying face down on the kitchen floor, soaked in blood, her body riddled with dozens of wounds. She was already gone. A manhunt followed. Ager vanished. But a few days later, he reappeared not in person, but through a Reddit post detailing his version of events. He wrote that after the initial check-in by Melinda's sister and friend, they had made up. We both let everything out. Our relationship was back on track. Then Melinda asked if he had been with anyone else during their break. He said yes. She got upset. She began slapping him, he claimed. Then hitting. I told her to stop. I told her I'd do something back. He said he pushed her harder than expected, and she hit the sink. I told her I was sorry. She said, "Leave. Leave now." He said he tried to hug her. That's when, according to him, Melinda grabbed a knife. He claimed she attacked him, that he tried to stop her, that he panicked and grabbed the knife too. He wrote, I hit her with it almost blindly a few times. I didn't know what happened. I was confused, shocked, and scared. He said when he left, he didn't know she was dead. But what seemed like a desperate attempt at honesty was something else entirely. A calculated defense. A digital manipulation. He described Melinda as violent early in his story to justify his actions later. But according to friends and family, Melinda was kind, patient, and never aggressive. He downplayed the break-in, making it sound like a misunderstanding. He conveniently left out the fact that Melinda had filed a restraining order against him. And while he said he only stabbed her a few times, the autopsy told another story. 47 wounds. But Ager's deception didn't stop there. He even messaged Melinda after the attack, after she was already dead. Nice seeing you tonight. Glad we worked things out. It was all part of his cover. But it didn't work. In October 2023, Ager stood trial. The jury concluded that this was no accident. It was possessiveness, control. If I can't have you, no one can. He was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 16 years. It was June 7, 2019, when a mysterious throwaway account appeared on Reddit's RR Confessions subreddit with a title few would forget. The post claimed the author was responsible for the deaths of multiple people, not from violence, not from rage, but from a simple spreadsheet error that changed lives forever. 4 years earlier, he said he was determined to avoid the 9-to-5 trap, so he started selling drugs. Not on the streets, on the dark web. At first, he sold only a few substances, but soon business grew. He expanded into shipping stronger, deadlier chemicals. He wanted to be efficient. He used an Excel spreadsheet to keep track of orders, names, zip codes, product types, amounts. But one day, either the spreadsheet glitched, or he did. He mixed up his inventory and mailed out the wrong drugs to multiple customers. I didn't notice, he admitted. Kept doing my thing for a few days. Then came the message that changed everything. Someone contacted him saying their friend had died after taking one of his packages. He thought it was fake, but when he checked his stock, he had 11 grams more of one substance than he should have. That meant the lethal drug was accidentally sent in place of something else. He wasn't a user himself, but he was high when packaging. He believed that led to the error. This wasn't just a bad order. He soon found out that at least 5 people had died as a direct result of his mistake. I knew what happened, he said. I knew I just killed several people. He didn't wait for the law to catch up. He shut down his dark web account, sold the remaining drugs, converted his Bitcoin, and disappeared. He moved to a new city, took a job at a restaurant, cut off all his old contacts. He never touched drugs again. But he didn't forget. The guilt of being responsible for so many lost lives still weighs heavily on me, he confessed. This post on Reddit was his first and last attempt at relief. He never returned to that account again. Was it true? That remains a mystery. The specific cases were never identified, and with over 100,000 overdose deaths per year in the U.S., it's nearly impossible to trace this back to a specific headline. Still, many Reddit users believed him. Some even expressed sympathy, but sympathy doesn't bring the dead back. And like so many stories on the internet, this one leaves us with more questions than answers. Reddit has always been a place for stories, some hilarious, some heartbreaking, and some too disturbing to forget. But there's something uniquely terrifying about a confession whispered into the void of the internet. No trial, no judge, no closure. Just a digital trace of someone trying to breathe under the weight of guilt. A man admits to a hit and run nearly 30 years later, cold, unapologetic, and untouchable. Another tortures himself over a forgotten rag, convinced he accidentally murdered an entire family. A killer rewrites history mid-fugitive, trying to repaint a murder as a misunderstanding. And a vendor hiding behind encryption and Bitcoin vanishes into civilian life after mixing up an order that cost people their lives. Each confession begs the same question. Do we believe them? That's the gamble of Reddit. Anyone can say anything. But the details, the timing, the pain, the quiet panic woven into the words, sometimes feel too real to fake. And maybe that's what makes these stories so disturbing. Not that they happened, but that they could happen. Anywhere. To anyone. And the only proof might be a username long since deleted, and a post that's now buried beneath thousands of others. These aren't just internet stories, they're warnings, because the scariest monsters are the ones who confess their crimes not in courtrooms, but in comment sections.